All right, so it's about that time. Once every couple weeks, I gotta rant about AI just to kind of get it out of my system. Most of you guys know that like if I could make this entire channel about ranting about I probably would, but I'm trying to be good and create things instead of just rant. For those of you guys who don't know, I've been at Worldcon for the past couple days, and I've met a lot of really awesome, crazy, cool people, writers, publishers, artists, and it's been super, super great. And I've had a lot of time to work on this piece, The Great Lighthouse of Isnar. This is the first piece ever that I am selling. I'm auctioning it off. Right now, I'm pretty sure that the bidding is at like $26. So for $27, could be yours. And it's this piece is gonna take me upwards of 70 hours, and you get it for like $26, $27, if no one else bids. So go do it. It's on my website. But anyway. Usually when I talk about AI on this channel, I'm discussing kind of the ethics behind using it in creative spaces, and I absolutely still believe that that's a worthwhile discussion to have. I'm going to shift gears a little bit right now and more talk about like what position our regulatory body should take in the fight against AI permeating every aspect of our culture, and like what they should do at a legislative level to stop it. So these are not going to be opinions that I'm entirely married to. This is what I think about the topic right now as we sit, in August of 2025, and I have thought about it a lot. These aren't like really underdeveloped thoughts, but my opinion could change, you never know. So I guess a good place to start would be where I definitely believe that legislative action should be taken, and like what parts of, marketable AI we should, as a regulatory body, legislate from Washington, D.C. At the federal level. I think that if I establish some of these areas, it's a good building block to build off of. All right. So the first one, I think that artificial like AI chatbots, designed to combat loneliness should be regulated against. You should not be allowed to make them. I do not believe that chatbots that are geared towards combating loneliness, or chatbots that are deceptive enough to where their goal is to attempt to convince users that they are real people, should not be legal. I think that that's going to ruffle a lot of feathers and raise a lot of eyebrows, and I do understand that take. And I've gone back and forth on whether or not I should present this, but it is my opinion, and after a lot of thought, I really do believe it. Now, I understand the hesitancy behind giving such power to our federal government. Lord knows I have my qualms with it. A lot of qualms against the lobbying and all of the things that go into our regulatory body. But that being said, I think that if they were actually attempting to look after, the people of our country, of America, then we would legislate against this specific hyper niche of artificial intelligence. I think that it is objectively unhealthy, and I think that it absolutely serves no societal utility. I mean, it's not really a theory that like the mental stability of adolescents and young adults is at an all-time low right now. That is mostly because of the internet. I mean, every clinical psychologist worth their stock would argue this, and you can cite to a lot of also contributing factors: a lack of purpose, attention span, yada yada yada. But I think that the development of artificial intelligence and AI chatbots that are specifically designed to validate everything that you say can only be detrimental to a human being's mental state. I genuinely believe this. I do not believe that any good can come from this iteration of echo chambers, which is all it really is. It's just the next evolution in a long line of echo chambers that the internet has provided us with. I have thought about it every which way, and if you disagree with me, like, please, in a constructive way, like, explain in the comments, like, why you disagree with me, because I've looked at it every which way to find out, like, why an AI chatbot designed to combat loneliness could ever work and be healthy, you know? And again, I could argue every which way behind the ethics of using artificial intelligence to, like, write a book or do art or anything like that. And I will. You'll hear me do it a lot on this channel. But you won't hear me call for, like, legislative action against those systems. Ultimately, regardless of if I, think that it's right or wrong, I think that people should have the right to choose how they use these tools, regardless of, like, how I feel about it. But when we transcend, like, this conversation of just kind of rudimentary ethics, I think that that's where we start to have these conversations about, like, the baseline functions of society and how they're being just completely eroded by things that serve absolutely no societal utility. And the only argument that I've heard thus far for, like, AI chatbots to combat loneliness are really just that, like, hey, people should be free to do what they want. And while I don't disagree with that by any means, I think that it's important for us as a collective to acknowledge the harm that something can do and just take action against it. First of all, I know that, the people in DC will not regulate against this. I know that it's not it's not something that's ever going to happen. It's just wishful thinking. But it's my thoughts on it that are important, and more importantly than, like, my lack of faith that anything like this would be legislated against, it's more so I do understand that these large mega bloated corporations, we're in this kind of system to where they can't stop innovating, because if they do, they will die. If Microsoft decided that they were going to be the corporation to be benevolent, to stop innovating in this field until we understand it more, to stop pumping all of this stuff just into the open market, and to just not do, like, let's call it specifically this aspect, like AI chatbots designed to combat loneliness. If they chose not to do this and not to innovate in this way, what happens is that all of their competitors innovate around them, which ultimately would lead to the death of the company. Obviously, that's a microcosm. I'm more so speaking about, like, generative AI at large, but you get my point. Like, we live in a system that not only incentivizes innovation, it requires it. These corporations must innovate, or else, they will fall by the wayside, and they will be, engulfed by another corporation that's more cutthroat and ruthless than them. It's just the way that it works. And obviously, this can be an effective tool, and it's done a lot for this country. But I think that specifically in this instance, and many more that I could speak about, we're really starting to see the wear and tear on just the citizens of America. And if our central regulatory body, i.e. our government, was doing its job, we would regulate against it. And again, like, you see this constantly around, like, the hot button is copyright laws. Everybody's kind of holding their breath, waiting for a couple of the different rulings for the class action lawsuits going around about AI stealing people's property, and even corporations doing it deliberately, not in the form of, like, iterative content, but just like blatantly pirating other people's work. And I mean, it doesn't seem like all that difficult of an issue to me. It just seems wrong. But there's so much like legalese that I'm just not educated in, that it's really not worth me commenting on it. Plus, there's plenty of people on this platform that have already done it far better than I have. I more so am concerned at. I think that like really the argument that I started this with is like it's my biggest concern. I think that we are treating the symptoms of a very, 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 very pervasive issue, and I think that it's so woefully unhealthy, and I think that it should be legislated against. Period. I do not see the societal value that, you know, AI chatbots solve. Again, strictly for the use of combating like loneliness. Like if you want to have like a little chatbot that helps you with your homework, again, we can get into the ethics behind that, but I don't think that it's like going to cause you mental instability. At least that won't be the first order effect of it. Second order, third order effects, I think that it's all worth talking about. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about this problem because like me and some of my new friends talked about it for a very long time today, and most of them were kind of on the side of like, yeah, I can't like find a good use for it, but you know, we live in America and you should be free to do what you want. And like that argument kind of, at least in my eyes, it falls apart a little bit, just, you know, because we don't actually abide by that logic or by that philosophy holistically, right? I mean, there are things in this country that are illegal for good reason, both to consume and to produce. And I think that the onus in this case should be placed on corporations. It should be illegal to produce this type of malicious entity. Yeah, so that was a long rant. That was a long rant. And it wasn't really about anything. But those are my thoughts on what we were talking about today. Buy my book. It's at my website. And it's a really good book. All right. Have a nice night.